De'Aaron Fox on his decision to shoot instead of run clock and draw a foul. Quote, I tried to get a layup to get up three, forced them to need a three. OG made a good block. Well, that's very Magic Johnson of him. Like, it's a great description, but it doesn't explain the logic, Carolina. For anyone that didn't see it,
yeah, like we know what happened.
Led to the opportunity. Right. Like, he had the opportunity, but with about 7 seconds left, he could have peeled out and taken 2 or 3 more seconds off the clock. He could have tried to run away from the foul. I understand he's a 77% free throw shooter, so maybe he didn't want to go to the line, but at the end of the day, I'll take my chances going to the line and burn a couple of more seconds off the clock. Instead, OG gets a great block on the play, and all of a sudden we know what happens from there. De'Aaron Fox played an incompetent basketball game yesterday. It's the only way to say it, Caroline.
What we don't talk about, or what I haven't seen enough talk about, because that was bad. I mean, choosing to take that shot, you know what De'Aaron Fox was thinking? Hitting 2 free throws. It doesn't matter where the form of 2 comes from. Just hit 2 points and then give yourself a little bit more of a cushion. But what we haven't talked enough about is not just that shot, but also going over to the other side of the floor. You know who was supposed to be on OG Anunoby? De'Aaron Fox. But instead, De'Aaron Fox turned his back to his man and was instead trying to double up on Jalen Brunson. Victor Wembanyama is the unanimous Defensive Player of the Year. I think he's got it, De'Aaron. I think he can do it. And, it's one thing to turn your back on your man and to try and block that shot, but you have to get back to your spot. You have to get back on OG, but instead, all he does is just stand there and watch OG make the putback of the century, of the millennium, of the history of the basketball world. He's just standing there and watching him do it like, ho-hum, oh well. No, that was your assignment. So De'Aaron Fox made especially in that possession alone, in the span of less than 30 seconds, De'Aaron Fox made 2 massively fatal mistakes. But in the entirety of the second half, bad passes, dumb turnovers, bad shots, the number of just bad looks that De'Aaron Fox took with 5 to 10 seconds, 10 plus seconds left on the shot clock was so puzzling to me. It was so shockingly bad. And look, if we want to give a blame pie for why the Spurs blew it last night, the most epic choke job in the history of the NBA and maybe even arguably in sports, De'Aaron Fox gets a slice of it. Victor Wembanyama gets a slice of it. Mitch Johnson gets a slice of it for swallowing his timeouts and thinking, nope, I don't need to take these. He was too slow to call timeouts. So it's not just on De'Aaron Fox. But De'Aaron Fox is the veteran in the room. You bring in a De'Aaron Fox to not make those dumb mistakes that we saw him make last night. Let the rookie Dylan Harper make those mistakes. Let the 22-year-old Victor Wembanyama get overwhelmed by the moment. He's not supposed to get overwhelmed by the moment. He's the one that's been here before, not in the finals, but he's been in the postseason before. He's seen more basketball. He's not supposed to be the one that makes those mistakes, but he did. He was a double agent last night, Fitzy.
He was so bad, and I'm not implying that he is actually in any way, shape, or form doing anything illegal, but he's so bad that social media was making rips to ask if he was going to the Terry Rozier School of Basketball. That's how bad he was last night. And to your point, I guess I find it impossible to buy this argument of like, well, what you need is experience. At this point, De'Aaron Fox has played how many basketball games in his life? So I don't care that it's the finals. When there's 7 seconds left in that basketball game, you've played enough basketball game. You don't need to lose in the finals to learn that with 7 seconds left, the right thing to do is probably to dribble it out a little bit. Like, I don't understand this. I don't understand why we're flocking to make excuses for the Spurs in general for their meltdowns, because even the argument of, oh, this is a young team. It was a young team game 1. When they blew a lead. It was a young team that should have learned from game 1 when they blew a lead again in game 2. It was a young team that in game 3 still tried to blow a lead but then found a way to lose it. It was a young team that blew a lead in game 1, game 2, kind of in game 3, that then blew a catastrophic lead in game 4. Like, you lost the argument of we need playoff experience. We need finals experience when it happened to you the first time. The second time. At this point, what do we make of it? Because you just mentioned the terrible defense on that game-winning shot. And it's a shot for the ages. It's rare you can say, I was there to see this, right? Like, we're all going to talk about where we were sitting when we watched OG Anunoby win that improbable game. I genuinely believe there will be a statue of that play outside of Madison Square Garden. We got to see it. We're the luckiest sports fans in the world. How did the San Antonio Spurs, who are known for their defense, how are the same San Antonio Spurs, whose backcourt was so good defensively in the first half, how can a team that's known for defensive effort be that irresponsible and not picking up OG Anunoby on the game-winning shot? Like, I don't buy any of this youth. They melted down because can't handle the pressure. And you didn't need game 4, game 3, game 2, game 1. If you haven't learned it by now, you ain't going to learn it. Somebody needs to sit down with these San Antonio Spurs and give them the talking to of, this isn't about learning experience. This is about manning up and owning up when the game's on the line. The number of Spurs that failed this team last night isn't my problem. The number of Spurs that have failed this team over and over and over and over in this series is my problem. That is who San Antonio is. At this point, it's clear. San Antonio doesn't know how to play with the lead, and they choke when it matters the most. That's the identity of this Spurs team.
I mean, the only game of this series that they have won is the one in which they had the smallest lead. In the first 2 games, they had a 14-point lead. Blown. Knicks won those games. 29-point lead, which is insane. You blow it. 12-point lead, you can win that game. This whole team looked so overwhelmed in the second half. And while age and experience is not an excuse, it's game 4 of the NBA Finals. You're either going to show up or you're just not. Like, I don't care how old you are. I don't care how many years of service you've accrued in the NBA. But it's not an excuse, but it is an explanation for Dylan Harper, who had the game of his life yesterday. He's the one that if the moment was too big for him, it's like, okay, it's not an excuse, but it does make sense a little bit. But it's an explanation, at least for some of these young players. Not for you, De'Aaron Fox. Not for you. He is the one that cannot get overwhelmed. He and Victor Wembanyama. Don't care that you're 22 years old. Don't care that it's year 3 in the NBA. Don't care it's your first time in the postseason. Your expectations are different. Your standard is different. But if there is anybody on that team, on that roster, in a Spurs uniform, who cannot be overwhelmed by the moment, it's the guy that you brought in to be the veteran in the room and the guy that you're paying $50 million a year. I know this series isn't over, and I know that if the Spurs win game 5, all of a sudden it's 3-2 and things feel interesting. I think this is a series that the Knicks are going to win. But how can you justify, if you're anyone in the Spurs front office, how can you justify paying De'Aaron Fox the $55 million that he is due next season?
You can't. I mean, what did we say after Chet got it? When Chet got embarrassed by Wemby, I said, I'm not sure you can ever show your face against Wemby again. I'm not sure how De'Aaron Fox shows his face at this point to San Antonio. I mean, and I want to see if we can pull up the Josh DeBow tweet that was just up a second ago from the Associated Press about the record for the Knicks in the last 2 seasons when they're down by 20 or more. And the staggering part of that number was, I believe it was the rest of the NBA is 4-71. And after last night, the Knicks are now 5-3. Up there. Thank you guys for getting that up. Caroline, the thing that bothers me the most is if Josh DeBow knows that, if we know that, if everybody knows that, you know who also knows it? The Spurs. So when you're up by 29 and you know you're taking on a team that has had, before last night, 4-3, as many wins as the rest of the NBA as a whole when they were down over 20 points in the last 2 seasons. So that, you know that. How do you take your foot off the gas? You know that. How do you play that irresponsibly in the second half? You know that's part of the Knicks' DNA. How do you let it happen? How does nobody on that Spurs team have the play, the gumption, the guts, the glory, the whatever to figure out a way to stop these runs? How does Wemby allow himself to throw an elbow when he knows the league's watching him, which results in a flagrant, which changes momentum? How do the Spurs players continue to throw up stupid threes? How does the coaching staff not figure out a way to stop the bleeding? How do they not have some cheesy semi-pro play where they call everybody together and say, we're running this. We've been running since training camp. We're going to get the game back. How do you not have some way to recapture momentum when you have to know? You have to, like, it's no longer about experience. It's about knowledge of your opponent. You knew the Knicks do that, and you still let it happen. Man, that's a level of embarrassing that I'm not sure you can ever wipe off the resume conversation of Wemby or the Spurs for the rest of time.
We're going to be talking about this forever. Forever. The same way that 28-3 has become a running and recurring joke for sports fans everywhere. The fact that that has become like the standard for embarrassing choke jobs. The San Antonio Spurs now live in that stratosphere. And if you're the Spurs, you're looking around and thinking, where are your versions of Jose Alvarado? Where's your version of an OG Anunoby who can show that kind of hustle in the last 10 to 15 seconds of the game? Where is your guy who is going to step up in those moments and not falter when the lights get the brightest?
It's interesting because I just pulled it up. Nobody remembers this, but you mentioned 28-3. I want to read you a stat line. 73.9 completion percentage, 17 to 23 for 284 yards, 12.3 yards per attempt, 2 touchdowns. That's Matt Ryan's stat line from 28-3. It's the 4th highest quarterback rating in any Super Bowl in Super Bowl history from Matt Ryan. And do we remember that? Do we remember a thing about Matt Ryan playing well in that game? No.
I don't care about all that.
Right.
You lost.
We remember the epic meltdown. Forever, when we think of Matt Ryan, people say 28-3. Wasn't even Matt Ryan's fault. And people say 28-3. I keep thinking about all of this because the way we treat conversations about legends, the way we treat conversations about great teams, and the way that we expect San Antonio to act in these moments. You see the tweet there, but man, we got so spoiled by Pop. Pop knew how to get things done. We got so spoiled by it. Like, we just expected. And Mitch Johnson has stepped into those huge shoes and done such a good job until now. And this is the one moment that matters more than all the rest of it.
And it almost feels inexplicable. If you just look at these teams on paper, and San Antonio, Pop is not on the sidelines, but Pop is still in the building. You have the legend that is Greg Popovich on your side. You have the legend that is Victor Wembanyama, 7'5", unanimous defensive player of the year, who we have all talked about might be one of the greatest players to ever play the sport of basketball. You have Dylan Harper, a top 5 pick in this past year's draft. You have Stephon Castle, a top pick in the draft just a couple of years ago. You've accumulated, like Thanos, accumulating all of these championship infinity stones. That you have the DNA of the San Antonio Spurs in those great years in the early 2000s. You have all of these things. You have checked all of these boxes. You are so ahead of schedule. And then you look over at the Knicks, and you have Jalen Brunson, an undersized shooting guard who nobody wanted to pay. You have Cat, who, Minnesota was like, yep, no, we're good. We can win without you. You have this ragtag bunch that just all fits together somehow, and they're fueled by the power of friendship, and they're up 3-1 against the big bad Victor Wembanyama led San Antonio Spurs. It doesn't make any sense.
I love the power of friendship. It's like Power Rangers, power of friendship unite. But you're right. This is, for all the conversation that we've had about what the Spurs did wrong, I want to stress this. The Knicks have never looked more like a team of destiny, and I'm not sure I've ever seen a team on any sport, on any playoff run, feel more destiny-laden than this New York Knicks team is. It's special to watch. It's incredible to watch, and it's something basketball fans are going to remember forever.